My story, take one. My name is Kelly Stringer. I was adopted at 2 weeks of age in Christchurch from a loving family, Linda and Watani McRoberts, and I was raised with 3 older brothers who were their biological children. Mum wanted that little girl and so they chose me, which was pretty cool.
I've made my way to the outskirts of Brisbane, Australia, where Kelly now lives with her family. It's where she's built her life over the past 20 years. But for Kelly, her story begins back in Christchurch, New Zealand, where she grew up.
Growing up in my house, I felt very safe and protected. Having my 3 older brothers, they were very protective over me. Dad coached rugby pretty much all of my life. In our community, because of the population of Māori and Pacific Islanders, we were all really close anyway. So everyone sort of knew everybody. It wasn't just in the home that I felt safe, it was the environment around our entire community that gave that safe feeling. So it was really nice.
For Kelly, it was a childhood shaped by a strong sense of family and belonging.
My parents were very open and informative about information regarding my adoption. I don't think that there should be secrets when it comes to adoption. It's not fair on anyone because it can impact the adopted family in a negative way, but it can also have a huge impact on the adoptee when they do find that information. Dad, he was the protector, and that was my safety net. We were all treated equally, so I never was found to feel adopted. I just felt like I was the baby sister and we were all the same.
But as Kelly got older, a quiet curiosity began to grow.
The curiosity around my birth parents was, who did I look like? Where did my features come from? That was probably the biggest thing. There were times when I'd sort of think, if I ever got to meet them and they don't want to meet me, how do I cope with that rejection again? They've given me away once. And it was a big fear, huge fear as a kid and I didn't want to go through that.
For Kelly, there was always that curiosity, but the fear of rejection never really went away.
It wasn't until my son, just before his first birthday, got quite sick. I was scared. Being a new mum was terrified because I didn't know the family history. My mum was probably a big advocate for me to go and find my birth family. She was the one that sort of went, you need to know. There's questions I can't answer that I think you need to know. My mum was European, my father was Māori. We had these connections down those lines, and that was great because I got the best of both worlds. But it's like, well, is that the same for my biological parents? So it was something that I just sort of wanted to be able to understand where they came from.
For years, those questions stayed in the background until Kelly decided to find out more.
When I tracked down my biological mother, I applied for my original birth certificate. I was then able to contact the adoption agency. My biological mother had actually contacted them and advised that if I was to get in touch, this was her address, and there was a list of all my siblings. And at that point I found out that I was actually the oldest of 10. I wrote her a letter. I had someone drop it off to her and she said that she wanted to meet me. So at that point we then went, okay, we'll go round and meet her. I remember being in the car. I was with my partner at the time. We pulled up and I just sat there and I looked at him and I said, I don't know if I can do it. And at that point we got out of the car and My biological mother was standing on the steps of her house. I was terrified. I'd had that safety net of my family for so long and they weren't there with me, so it sort of made me think that, am I doing the right thing? Because my fear was hurting my parents and my brothers.
Despite that fear, Kelly went in and met her birth mother for the first time. It wasn't what she expected, and it didn't give her the answers she was hoping for.
When I sort of walked away from it, I just felt relief. I was extremely lucky to have been adopted out into such a wonderful family.
In the years that followed that first meeting with her birth mother and learning that she was the oldest of 10 on that side, Kelly still didn't have clear answers about her birth father. Later, she met her future husband Carl in Christchurch, and together they went on to build a life in Australia. But for Kelly, the search wasn't over. Those questions about her birth father never really went away.
I felt like I needed that closure, just on who I looked like. And I talked to my husband and he turned around and he said, do the DNA. And I went, but what if I find nothing, or what if they're not interested? Do I want to go through that hurt? I didn't want to go through that again. I honestly was terrified.
I was like, no, we're going to keep going with this. And even, she wasn't as interested as me. I was just like, we've got to get this result. I was a bit more passionate because I just didn't want to let her down.
Well, I'd done the DNA and the results came back, and at that point there was a couple of quite high matches, so we tried to reach out to them, pretty much got nowhere.
At first, the DNA results didn't give Kelly the answers she was hoping for. For a while, it felt like everything had come to a standstill, but the search didn't stop, and eventually they turned to a DNA detective for help.
The DNA detective was able to discover who my biological father was. From that point, my husband found an auntie and an uncle on Facebook.
Through those connections, Kelly began to learn more about her birth father, Jim.
Jim had had a pretty rough life, and now suffered dementia. So yeah, he's in a rest home. But my uncle at that point called out to his wife and said, come here. And she walked over and he introduced her to me, and then he said to her, who does she look like? And she's like, oh yeah, definitely. And I'm like, sorry? Pardon, what do you mean? And he goes, you look like my sister who passed away, my older sister. And he said, you just look just like her. And he said, oh, you'll have to meet her daughter. Her daughter Irina used to look the same. And at that point I was like, I know where I belong. And then they reached out to my cousin Irina, and her and I had a video call and we just started laughing because it was like looking at myself. And then she sent through photos and my daughter looks like her daughters. So it just gave me that sense of that's where I came from. That's where my looks came from. So yeah, very strong gene pool. So yeah, it was quite nice. It was nice.
As Kelly began connecting the pieces of her family tree, her whakapapa, she started uncovering more about where she comes from.
With the paternal side, it's purely New Zealand Māori and Hawaiian, which was quite exciting.
Hawaiian, you didn't expect that, did you?
No, no.
With those connections now in place, it's something Kelly holds closely, especially her connection to the Simons whānau on her paternal side, a connection she now carries forward to her children.
It's just the fact that she went through the struggle of not having a dad and then actually searching the family tree and all that will make her feel like grateful that she has a whole new family. It also lets us know where we've come from as well and where our heritage is.
I think it was really warming to see Mum find what she's been looking for her whole life. It's been good for her to see where she's from and where we're from as well. It's been really nice.
I'm still and will always be proud of my Mick Roberts side because that's who I am. That's how I was raised, and that is the family that accepted me and loved me and gave me everything that I ever wanted. That will never change. But having the chance to discover the whakapapa of the Simons whānau, that gives me a sense of understanding to where my whakapapa truly become my children. That journey is pretty powerful.
And through that journey, it's not something Kelly has experienced alone.
She's at a place in her life now where this is really healing, and she's proud and she wants to share that with everyone. And I'm so proud of what she's achieved, and it's emotional.
And for those who grew up alongside her, it's something they've felt too.
The word closure was going to come out of my mouth, but it's definitely not closure. It's just getting answers and fulfilling that chapter for her. So hopefully no unanswered questions anymore, and no empty spots, and any need for guesswork or anything to come in anymore. And yeah, I imagine it'll be great for her. And it's been a long time coming, and I wish her so much happiness from all this. So yeah, it's great. It's good stuff.
For Kelly, it's about what comes next.
For me, with my paternal family, I've had cousins reach out and welcome me to the family and can't wait to meet you, and just knowing that they did want to be a part of it gave me that acceptance.
Now, Kelly wants to take her children back to those origins in New Zealand.
I now want the opportunity to take them home to New Zealand, to that area where my whānau are. So go to the family marae. I'd like to do the journey with my children, take them home so that they get to experience that, because it's probably going to be quite emotional for me, but I want them to be a part of that experience because it's who my family is.
For Kelly, it's about embracing every part of her story, continuing to learn about those connections as she pieces more of them together, and in doing so, passing that on to the next generation. I just want to say a massive thank you to you, Kelly, for sharing your story as part of my An Adoption Story series for 2026. Also, a massive thank you to your entire family for their involvement in your story too, and just welcoming me into your life, your family, and going through that timeline was just amazing to put that all together. And also, a massive thank you to each and every one of you all across the world for tuning in to my series right here on my YouTube channel. Now with this series, I'm doing all the filming, editing, and all the production by myself. And so I also have a little optional YouTube membership right here on my YouTube channel, as well as a Patreon that you can also go ahead and visit. Every bit of your support and help really means the world to me, and I can't wait to continue making more stories as part of my series. So thank you all so much for tuning in to another story. It means the world. Thank you so much.
I want you to tell me just about what these photos mean to you.
It shows the beginning, like the beginning of my life and how the people around it showed me within the photo just the security that they gave me at that time. That's my doll's pram. I loved that pram.
You're getting ready to be a mum here.
Yeah.
It's meant to be, see?
Yep.